A devastating tsunami led Japan to build a 400-kilometer shield. Similar to the most devastating incident of Chernobyl, or maybe the worst, giant waves crashed on thousands of lives in Japan. Many say that the shield is acting as the strongest barrier to protect Japan from a bizarre situation, and some say it is not. Still, with a solution lies its pros and cons, the same as in the case of shield. Though it is a disputable situation, here is everything to know about the terrifying situation which destroyed the lives of thousands of people overnight. 2011, a towering tsunami and earthquake ravaged on the northeastern coast of Japan, left destroying and taking the lives of roughly 20,000 people. It decimated the entire town and triggered an atomic disaster. Soon in the wake of the destruction, the government poured billions of dollars into building new tsunami defense systems. Now nearly a 400-kilometer chain of cement-tall seawall is standing at the coasts, guarding and designed to weaken giant waves and buy people some time to evacuate during the next unforeseen disaster. But at what cost? Going back to the historic time, seawalls have long been part of Japan's coastline and over the centuries have set the standards high for others and have become the world leader in coastal engineering. Taking an example of the town of Taro, it endured two terrifying hurricanes in 1896 and 1933. Soon after this devastating incident, it became a global example of a coastal defense system, constructing an X-shaped structure with 2.4 kilometers of seawalls 10 meters tall. Elsewhere in Japan, other cities were incorporating similar structures of coastal defense, including tsunami evacuation routes and earthquake-resistant building codes. But for the devastating disaster of 2011, it wasn't enough. The whole situation took a bizarre turn when the villagers had complete faith in the tsunami walls and they believed it would stop any giant wave, but it didn't. The Japan Tsunami Shield was designed to hold back waves of up to 8 meters, but the 2011 earthquake saw them terrifically reach a height of 12 to 15 meters. Though the wall did reduce the force, but the enormous waves still succeeded in crashing over the top. In some cases, it also crushed the structures and failed to protect the Fukushima atomic power plant. After the devastating 2011, the Japanese government set aside $12 billion to repair and build nearly 400 kilometers of seawalls. These newly designed structures are taller than the ones earlier, rising to 14.7 meters in some areas and especially supported by a strong foundation that is around 25 meters deep in places. They are completely wider bases and reinforced inner walls to better absorb the impact of waves and help prevent them from collapsing. Study as per McGovern's research. The researcher built an enormous indoor tsunami stimulator, in collaboration with UCL and HR Wallingford, that can replicate giant waves like the ones that hit Japan in 2011. He explained that in terms of seawalls, what was quite key is that when the tsunami approaches, it does so in a way that is not really reflective of how we sort of see in terms of the movie and films where you have a great big crashing wave coming onto the wall. Though it doesn't really happen as it is shown. The force on the wall is just described by this hydrostatic force. New recommendations. In the Scenario Manual of Japan, there are new key disaster measures, including using geotextile membranes in sea dikes to try and stop the leaking of infill material, interlinking, widening breakwater rubble mounds, and reinforcing concrete blocks sea walls. Though the wall's height is the biggest upgrade and perhaps their biggest downside as well. With advantages come disadvantages too. One concern the experts have is that super high walls could actually make the impact of the tsunami worse, by creating a dam-like blockage that could release an even more intense torrent of water if it breaks. On the other hand, some residents feel it is like an eyesore, as in some areas, the walls are nearly 4-story high, blocking the view of the sea entirely and leaving some locals feeling like they are in jail. Whereas, others worry that the wall will put off tourists or that they're destroying their community's livelihood and culture next to the sea.